Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships, one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio. With me, as always, is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hello. So, I've been thinking about this since I heard it on the podcast after we recorded last week. I wanted to get your live reaction to this. Does Lightning McQueen need health insurance or car insurance? Discuss.
Interesting question. I wasn't expecting that. Would they not be one and the same?
Yeah, in this post-apocalyptic, post-human world, they probably consolidate, to be honest with you.
Right.
Like, you probably got collision with, like, a deductible that also goes to, like, health, I suppose.
But now at the same time, there wouldn't be a doctor's office. It would be a mechanic.
A mechanic that's also a car, because
So
there
I
are
guess
no
doctor.
humans in this world.
Right. So I guess it's like doctor / mechanic.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So I'm gonna say it's just health insurance then.
Yeah. The one argument that I heard, because I brought this up in work as well, is that it would definitely be health insurance because we don't own human insurance.
That's fair.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. These are the things that rattle around in my brain. You're welcome, audience.
Well, that's a legit question.
Which podcast are you listening to besides ours?
That's
Mark.
all Anthony was thinking about the entire time. Like,
Just-
who is that motherfucker listening to?
I'm
Should
green with jealous rage right now.
Should I do it in alphabetical order? Yeah.
Oh
Or-
my god.
Oh, we've lost Ant, I think, for the episode.
Join us for episode 201 when Mark is not part of this podcast anymore.
He could join those other podcasts that
Yeah.
he listens to.
Yeah, just ring them up, see if they'll have you on. Giving your download number, your precious download numbers to them.
Does it count that I do download the podcast?
I'll let it slide if Anthony lets it slide.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with your nonsense for 200 episodes. Might as well continue dealing with it.
True.
So. Well, this is episode 200, or specifically our episode 200 spectacular, because we are not watching a movie this week. We haven't watched a movie this week. We are talking about the last 100 episodes, episode 101 to 200. And there isn't really that much of a structure for this episode. This is basically a breather for us to talk about, kind of navel gaze a little bit, talk about where we've been for the last 100 episodes, and getting ready for October, which is our favorite time of the year. So,
Oh yeah.
except for Mark. Mark hates horror movies. Well, that's a little strong, but you're not a.
It's not Star Wars, Ant.
It's not Star Wars. It's not art.
Yeah.
What else do you hate? I feel like something else has come up.
There was something. Yeah.
Zelda. You hate Legends of Zelda.
Oh yeah,
too.
we said that I hate The Legend of Zelda so much that I tattooed it on my body.
I mean, you hate the things you hate. So yeah, 200 episodes. I believe it's almost to the day. We're recording this on September 27th, and our 100th episode spectacular came out on September 24th. So 3 days. So it was like Saturday it would have been, I think.
Yeah.
It would have been. So yeah, we've made it. And it just so happens because I think there's some weeks where we didn't record in between there and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there was a week we didn't record, and then the other 3 weeks that would make up the gap to make this a perfect thing is that we did a 100th episode spectacular, which started it off. Then we did our 2 end of year things that weren't numbered episodes.
Right. That's correct. Yep. So 100 episodes since our 100th. It's back in 2020. Man, we were just at the height of the pandemic when that one was. So I guess our first kind of order of business is like talk about some of our favorite movies from this past 100 episode. We kind of go round robin. I have a list, but
yeah.
What's up, Dan? What about you? What's one of the movies that I usually stick with movies that I hadn't seen before? So like first time watches for this podcast, because I think it's kind of a cheat to say RoboCop was one of my favorite ones that we covered. Like, Of course it is. But yeah, what's one that kind of popped out at you?
Well, I had a few things written down here. I don't have to run through all of them right away, but just like a precursor to that was as I was looking through our library, what came after our 100th episode was basically the start of Halloween and our Halloween episodes. So
Mhm.
I thought that was pretty cool how we're doing the same thing, right? We're after this 200th episode will be our beginning of Halloween episodes. So yeah, I just thought that was a little, it's kind of fate in a way because we enjoy it so much, and we got some really good movies in there from Beyond. I think we did Pumpkinhead, so we did a couple of classics. But one of the movies from our previous 100 episodes that I enjoyed was Wonder Woman 1984 because that was the episode with our first guest Tia from Geek Vibes Nation. And I think you got a clip ready for it, right? So let's roll to the clip.
Oh, this isn't episode 100, sir. I don't have
Oh,
that kind of time anymore.
okay. I thought we had some like queued up, bits here. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's
Yep. And
maybe for episode 300.
we'll pause for maybe I'll have time this week to find a clip from it.
I hope. Oh man, that would make me so happy if I forced you. Like this son of a bitch made me do this.
And it
But
wasn't Mark.
I had that joke lined up in my head for 2 days. 2 days, I was like, "Oh, I got to remember to say this. This is gonna be a killer bit." And
Yeah,
it
no.
was.
So I guess we've done 100 episodes, and at the moment, the last 100, the 100th episode spectacular, I didn't have a job when there, so that was a lot easier to do that.
If it was
No.
gonna happen, it would have happened then.
Yeah. This time, gotten a job since then and changed jobs since then, so not happening right now. But
Yeah.
Wonder Woman 84. Like you reminded me that 150 episode 115 was the first guest we had on, which was surprising to me because we did 100 plus episodes before we invited somebody on, which
Yeah,
is
that wasn't already part of our spear of podcast at the time.
yeah, right, yeah, because we did have Jen and Tom on for Sonic the Hedgehog.
But that doesn't count because that was the before times.
Yeah.
That was like the last episode before the four times, really.
Yeah.
Or
I thought
almost
that was
February
cool.
February 20th, 2020.
It was something like Mark said. We had kicked around the idea of wanting guests on,
Mhm.
but we're all procrastinators here. So
Yes.
like, yeah, we'll do it, and then finally, I think you were pretty much the person like, hey, why don't you reach out to Tia and see if she wants to do it? Like, yeah, that makes sense. And I was happy that Tia was on board with us for this movie.
hmm
I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how she was gonna go, and I know she was a fan of our podcast prior to that, but people are very touchy with Wonder Woman, obviously, and you have the people who thought 1984 was awesome, and then you have people.
Do we? Do they exist?
They've quieted down quite a bit, but they're out there. They're just waiting for their time to shine. Give it another 10 years, they'll be back.
Oh, it's an underappreciated masterpiece.
Yeah, can we just take a second to appreciate Wonder Woman 1984 and the undeserved hate it got, guys?
Are those like the Thor the Dark World perverts that are out there?
They are out there too. We've talked about it ad nauseum. Nothing's allowed to be bad. Everything's great.
Sometimes things just suck.
Yeah, that's how the world works. But I thought Tia was such a good sport, and it was fun just kind of ripping into the really hastily put together CGI of the scenes and how we kind of glossed. We talked about it, but like it was kind of odd that you had Gal Gadot rescuing Palestinian kids essentially when who she is. So it was interesting because we don't really get into global politics on this
Sure.
podcast, obviously. But I guess someone felt that it needed to be talked about a little bit. It was just
Yeah, at least you didn't sing Imagine while doing it.
Yeah.
Would
That's
that have made
embarrassing.
it worse or better?
I don't know. I'm too online to know which one I would prefer.
Right. What's the right answer here? And how we all came to the conclusion that Princess Diana raped a random dude in that movie.
Okay, well, when you said it that way, that isn't Wonder Woman Diana Prince. Is that what her name is?
Diana
Yes.
Prince, yes.
Yeah.
It's not Princess Diana.
Princess.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Wait, I want
was
to
like,
go on record.
was Dan doing a different podcast?
I've never accused Princess Diana of such a
I
thing.
had just finished watching The Crown. Sorry, got confused. No, I just switched Princess Diana and Diana Prince. But yeah, Diana, because she is a princess essentially, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not technically wrong there, but I hear what you're saying. It's good to.
With the royals in the news over the past few weeks, Wonder Woman, it doesn't come top of mind when you say Princess Diana.
That's a good point. We don't need King Charles coming after us.
No, we do not. We don't need any royalty coming after us.
But we had all agreed that I forget.
We were too old for Prince Andrew, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Most likely. I forget who brought it up, but I don't think it had occurred to Tia that like, oh well, yeah, she raped this guy. He had no control over his body.
Yep. Also, it's like an assisted, I guess, rape because Chris Pine's in there. Right?
Yeah, he's
complicit.
Yes, he was complicit in it. He knew it wasn't his body, and he did it anyway. They're both villains in my book.
Okay. All right, Mark. What about you? What's a movie that sticks out for you?
Yeah. So, forgetting a movie real fast, as you had mentioned, and our personal life things too. A lot has happened in these episodes. I have moved twice in the last year and have now gotten into my own apartment away from family and no longer having to caregive older family members. And I've also gotten promoted twice, randomly enough. Just looking at these 100 episodes, I'm like, holy shit. 2 years, a lot has happened between all these different movies that we watched. I noticed that we seem to be getting better at the types of movies we choose.
I would hope so. We've had a lot of practice.
Yeah, but I meant when you literally run down the list, you start noticing that we've gotten into a rhythm in like the last 50 or so, where nothing seems like too out of the blue. Like we seem to be. I think it's all because you set up that list, Ant.
Sure.
That we can kind of riff off each other's choices, and I think that's helped the podcast a lot in the last 50 episodes or so. Looking there, that it helps the audience sort of get to know the flow that we're doing here. But to keep on the same topic Dan was talking about, I'll jump ahead to one of my later ones. I want to pick Draft Day. It was a movie I've seen before, but it was also the culmination of an idea I've had for years of getting. At the time when I first started, I have 3 friends that work in the fantasy football industry. So I had an idea of having them on as guests to do Draft Day, which is the bad Kevin Costner NFL draft movie. We were lucky to get my friend Joe Dolan from Fantasy Points on, and I knew Joe's energy would match ours. That was no doubt. Joe's a professional, more than us in terms of does radio and podcast for much more of a living than we make on this. But he brought some really deep dive stuff that I was hoping for, like breaking down things. And I thought it brought a different energy to the podcast, or at least that episode, than we had in the past. And it succeeded my wildest dreams in terms of that segment. I think it would have been too crowded if I got my other 2 friends to come along. But yeah, I thought Joe was a perfect guest, a lot of fun. And Draft Day is a movie that both non-football fans can pick apart for certain reasons and football fans can pick apart for different reasons. And it just seems like it's NFL propaganda 101. And it was fun. I love when we have guests on. I know there's going to be other things that we talk about with guests around, but I think just for me personally, finally getting to have one of my good buddies on that has expertise in the football field to guest. Yeah, I don't know what your guys' thought on the episode was, if you had seen that movie before, but I thought it was a good one of ours.
I have not seen that movie, but we've got a clip. Roll it, Jamie. That's a good one. It's a good clip.
You know what? I love that clip so much.
Yeah, my favorite part.
Get that time.
My favorite part is the middle part of it.
Yeah. It was a good middle for sure.
Yeah, I just love the behind the scenes on that, where we had to tone down Joe's loudness. At times, he just completely put everything in the red. You couldn't tell that from that clip there, but we were bleeding from the ears by the end of that clip.
Yeah.
It was worth it, though.
Yeah.
That clip.
I didn't expect the slur out of your mouth, though, Mark. So.
I mean, no one ever does.
So let's try not to do that again.
Yeah, I've done it once every 100 episodes.
I was going to say, it's only allowable once every 100 episodes.
That's right. Until we
Yeah.
start getting like 100 listens an episode, and then people will start to take notice.
Yeah, well, wait a minute. Fame is a fickle mistress. I liked that episode too. I liked having Joe on. He was very funny. Like Mark said, very knowledgeable about football. And again, we all came to the consensus that the Jaguars got fleeced at the end of that movie, and how they made it look like the GM for the Jaguars was the smartest guy alive. Like no, man, like no coach in the history or no GM in the history of the NFL would ever do that kind of trade, and if they did, they'd be immediately let go the next day. So yeah, how the movie paints this as this grand crescendo for the main character, and how, like he's wheeling and dealing in the war room, right? And they just show this one clip. It would just never happen in real life, and it's good to know that there was no one that stupid in professional sports.
Yeah. As for me, well, I guess we should mention, as we're talking about guests, this was after the first 100 episodes, we introduced ourselves to the genius of Neil Breen, and we had some help along the way. The first episode, when we didn't double down, we brought on Pete, which was kind of fate because he was originally going to come on for The Love Guru, and he watched The Love Guru and then couldn't join us for that. So unfortunately, he watched The Love Guru, but then he joined us a couple weeks later for Double Down. And Double Down was an interesting film. And then he joined us again with Alex from Binge Media for Fateful Findings this year. And I think this podcast there's a before Neil Breen and there's a after Neil Breen. Basically, you can't get that man out of your head after you've seen one of his movies.
He definitely forces you to up your game.
Yeah. And actually we have a clip for both of these episodes. We'll play these back to back.
That was
Neil.
Was really good.
Oh, that Neil.
Yeah, only Neil could get that kind of visceral, real reaction, right, Mark?
Yeah. I mean, I have never been so emotionally moved by a scene.
Well, this is actually the guys, that was actually our podcast episode, not a scene from the movie.
Oh, damn.
Right? Yeah.
You couldn't tell the level of writing was the same.
It's about on par. As is this bit.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I was gonna put that on my list, but I knew instinctively that for all three of us, those two episodes were definitely like upper echelon for us in terms of just the quality of the film, and then just the banter between all of us. Really top notch, and yeah, it's become a thing where we look forward to it every year pretty much now.
Yeah. Fateful Findings, almost just about our longest episode, almost 2 hours long.
That's crazy, but it's so worth it.
Oh yeah, not a wasted moment in that episode.
Just pure, as you heard from that clip, pure hilarity.
Genius episode, man. Like, I don't know what the podcast version of an Oscar is, but gimme.
I think it's is it a Webby?
It's a Webby, maybe. I feel like there's a lot of podcast things. I don't know. Probably just pay for an award and you probably get one.
What would you rather win, a Grammy or a Webby?
Grammys are awful. I feel like Webbies know their lane. You know, they stay in their lane. I'm gonna go Webby.
Okay. I've never watched a moment of the Webbies. I'm assuming that's what they're called.
Is there even a show to watch? I have no idea.
There's got to be something, right? With like random podcast celebrities like Mark Maron or Mark Maron doing it. Just like, and
Logan Paul.
He's too busy wrestling.
I just can't imagine. It can't be that big of an affair, but they have them. So
I feel like it's on par with the Daytime Emmy Awards, where you just hear that people want it, but have no idea when they're actually given out.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this news channel has won the Daytime Emmy. No idea when.
Right. But trust me, those stations, that's like what they live for, man. For the Emmys, and no one cares. But anyway,
they're not the Cable Ace Awards. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to, and I think we kind of have it picked out already, Ant, if I believe.
What?
We have our next Neil Breen movie picked out, right?
Yeah, we'll probably go back to the second one. So It's double down. Then there's a one in between that one and Fateful Findings. So we'll probably go back to, I think it's called I Am Here ... Now.
Yep.
Which is
Perfect.
chef's kiss for that title
Yes.
alone.
Yeah.
So
That's what I mean. It's just it's something we look forward to.
yeah. I think before we go back around, we'll take a quick break because I'm sure that we're gonna need some ad space for here. So we'll use this as this one, and we'll be right back. And welcome back, and we'll just keep going. Dan, what about you? Is there another episode you want to talk about?
Yes, absolutely. This one was just specifically for one bit that we did, and it's the Cliffhanger movie that we reviewed, and specifically the conversation that we had about how awkward it must have been in the helicopter ride home at the beginning when
Yes.
Stallone loses Michael Rooker's girlfriend trying to rescue her from the mountaintop.
Sure.
And just how we kept thinking, what would the pilot be saying? Like, oh, did you catch that Denver game last night? Pretty crazy. Like, I wish movies would show that more often. What
The awkward
happens.
moments.
Yeah, like it's directly after a tragedy. Like someone loses their girlfriend or someone's house gets swept away, and it's like, oh man, sorry. And then just like I want to see how they interact with each other. But yeah, I love that bit. I was laughing my head off listening to it. Yeah, it was just a very silly thing that was in the movie.
Yeah, that was a good clip. I remember that one pretty well. I think that's on the TikToks.
Yeah.
I think it's one of the first TikToks. That was like this clip that it was like, oh, this should be a thing.
Yeah, that entire movie just had like little scenes like that where I was much more interested in like the in between than what they actually showed. Like just some of the conversations between John Lithgow and his cronies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going to things because it had a lot of things where something would happen and then it would cut away and it was like a break in time and sort of like, how'd they get there?
Yeah, it seems like a whole lot happens in between scenes that we just never see.
Yeah, it's like the opposite of some movies, mainly Neil Breen movies, where you can basically almost calculate every single minute of the day was filmed.
Yeah. Mark, what about you? What's another movie that we covered?
Yeah, so another movie that I liked the movie, but I became more obsessed with the soundtrack, and that would be Eddie and the Cruisers 2.
Okay.
Eddie and the Cruisers 2. The movie was great. I think the thing I liked the most about it, and I think we discussed this on the podcast, was how just about every like 3 to 4 scenes would play out the same. Like they would start practicing doing a little well, and then he would freak out and leave, and they would have to get him to come back, and then they practice a little more. That was basically the rhythm for the whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also that he had the Clark Kent disguise of just a mustache. And, oh my God, that can't be Eddie.
Sure.
That was 20 years. But the soundtrack, on the other hand, I legitimately listened to that while working out when I was going to the gym at the time. Like I just put that soundtrack on and as I was lifting weights and just doing it for about 3 weeks straight there. So that movie brought back good memories just because that soundtrack's actually pretty good to just, listen to in the background while doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not careful, you might, as we joked on the podcast, think you may be listening to a Bruce Springsteen song.
Sure.
At different points. But, Eddie and the Cruiser is much more of a fun movie than I heard. The first one's a little more dramatic and not as goofy in spots as this one is. But soundtrack still kicks ass. But yeah, Eddie and the Cruisers 2, definitely one of the ones I had on this list that made an impact on me in the last 100 episodes.
Okay, good. One episode or one movie that I keep going back to because it's probably one of my favorite movies that we hadn't seen before in this group of movies is Thrashin'.
Yes,
good old skateboarding movie. And we didn't have a guest. We didn't have a guest on. We usually pick episodes that we've had guests on, but Thrashin' was so much fun. And it was a big movie that we had in the previous 100 episodes, Gleaming the Cube. We always go back to talk about Gleaming the Cube. This is so much more fun than Gleaming the Cube. It was exactly the movie we wanted Gleaming the Cube to be.
Yeah.
And it actually was that movie. So Thrashin', the young 17-year-old Josh Brolin, skateboarding, making a living, trying to be a big shot, which was very similar to Spiker somehow. But yeah. Thrashin' was one of my favorite movies that we covered.
Yeah, and Thrashin', because it's on my list as well, I think I described on the podcast, or we mentioned, has the first gratuitous male shirt taking off scene
Sure.
where he's positioned like most females of the 80s
Right.
when they're going topless. It was just a funny reversal there that I don't even think they realized they did at the time. But yeah, this movie was definitely, like you said, everything we wanted Gleaming the Cube to be, especially because it didn't have the Viet Cong arms dealing in it. And I love a good villain group name, and Daggers is a good villain group name.
Sure.
I also had Thrashing on my list.
Look at that. 3 for 3.
Yeah, it was so much fun. And I have specifically written down the jousting scene,
Yeah.
which I'm pretty sure was the only skateboarding jousting scene ever shot on camera.
Yeah.
I don't think that was it. There's never going to be another one. But yeah, that scene just, it really blew my mind that's where the movie went with this gang warfare.
And it plays an integral role because he hurts his arm.
That's right. Man, it was definitely way better than I expected. I think that movie was the first movie that I genuinely loved and had no clue what to expect from it, and was so pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And that alone just earned a spot for one of my favorite past 100.
Sure. Dan, you got one more? Let's say we could do 3.
Yeah. So, man, I have so many written down here, but
Me too.
so I'll give a quick shout out to one of the movies that I really enjoyed was TMNT Coming Out of Their Shells tour, and our hunt for the Pizza Hut that still has the jukebox with the remix of Count on Us.
Yes, it's still ongoing.
It's still ongoing. We
We
will
need to
get
find it.
Pizza Hut. Yeah, we will get it. But
Answer your DMs, assholes.
well, you got nothing better to do. Come on. I definitely. I know at the beginning, Ant, you mentioned, try not to pick movies that obviously everybody loves, but I put down the Evil Dead episode strictly because of the circumstances with it having. We went to Comic-Con, and that was the 50th anniversary of it.
40th.
40th. The 40th anniversary of it, and the crowd was awesome, and Jen was on. My wife watched it with us, so my wife, yes, and I don't think she had ever seen the original Evil Dead, so that was a treat, and to get her opinions on really one of the all-time classic horror movies was definitely something that I was very happy to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's the only movie in 200 episodes where we watched the movie together. We still have not recorded a podcast together in the same room. That's the closest we've ever come to watching the movie together. I don't know what's wrong with us, but we live half hour to anybody's house.
With these gas prices, man, come on.
It's true, yeah. Thanks a lot, Sleepy Joe.
God damn it.
Well, to peel the onion back a little bit, we were talking off air about possibly all getting together for one of the Halloween episodes, and I feel like we again, procrastination coming through. We always talk about getting together, and we just never do it. So we got to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the past 2 years, it's a lot easier to just be like, oh, I'm just going to stay home. Like we for 9 months, that's all we were allowed to do, basically.
That's good.
So it kind of conditioned us to do that. And it's like, even like personal life, it's like, it took my wife and I, after we had moved into this house, like a good summer, where we're like, oh, wait, we can invite people over and actually, entertain people.
We can do things now.
We can do things now. So it's all about getting out of that comfort zone that we've created for ourselves since 2020.
Yeah, it's definitely a matter of convenience for sure.
Yeah.
And we're not spring chickens anymore, where we can just stay up all night. Unfortunately,
no, I fell asleep at 10:30 the other day.
I mean, there you go, right? I took a nap in my car for my break today.
I used to do that when I worked at Rick's,
and that was when you were younger.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think, and you know what, we did a commentary, but again, we weren't together for No Holds Barred,
We did. That was a watch-a-thon. A watch. What's it called?
like a Twitch watch-a-thon or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch party.
Watch party. Yeah.
Yeah.
Twitch
And
watch party.
we enjoyed it. We're like, yeah, we'll do this again, and we haven't done it since.
Maybe that's something to do.
Yeah,
that we're
I think
talking
there's
about.
so much we could do.
Yeah. Who's got the
Which-
time?
Yeah, I was gonna say we just need to have the time, really.
Yeah.
And none of us have children, so this is the only time we're gonna have time.
But Evil Dead.
Yes.
Yeah. Great. That watch has turned that movie into one of my favorite horror movies.
Oh man, it was great, and it also kind of foreshadowed another movie we would cover on the podcast, Raccoon City, Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City.
What was that?
So I believe.
Raccoon City?
Oh, you son of a bitch! For a second, I was like, "Oh, did I cut out or something?"
You mean Raccoon City?
Raccoon
Right?
City.
Yeah. I prefer to say it the correct way, Raccoon City.
Okay.
You scared
Resident
the
Evil.
shit
Welcome,
out of me.
Resident Evil. Welcome to Raccoon City. Go ahead.
Yep. So we were on the way to watch The Evil Dead, and I guess the trailer had just dropped that day. We were talking about it on the escalator ride up to our theater, and this kid in front of us was just not happy about Resident Evil coming out. Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that dropped today." Like, yeah, that shit sucks. Like, "Oh, all right. Sorry, I
He
was
was-
just saying it was out.
He was very unhappy.
Yeah, but yeah, then we decided to watch it, and I hope that person is listening or listened to that episode.
Yeah.
And we just annoyed him all over again.
Yeah,
All
and that also was the night, I think it was that night or maybe the next night, where I finally got to watch through what was one of my favorite TV shows of the last year, when we watched an entire season of I Think You Should Leave.
Well, I forced you guys to watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you held us.
Hey,
pretty much at
it worked.
gunpoint.
Either we really liked it, Ant, or it's Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, it's true.
They were like, yes, we like it, Ant. It's funny.
Don't hurt us, please.
It's,
Yeah, I wasn't even high, and I enjoyed it. So
There you go. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be high to enjoy it. There you go.
That's
Ringing an endorsement.
I was gonna say that's what they should put on the Netflix little blurb. It's so good, you won't even need to be high to enjoy it.
There you go. All right, Mark. What about you? You got another episode?
yeah. So I'll mention one as sort of like an honorable mention thing, just because it's not the full movie, but I like in this podcast when we go into really dark humor places, and for some reason there are at least once per week I think of 9/11 things I hate about you. And
That's a good one.
and just that whole plot line we came up with for
Sure.
it, and I will chuckle to myself at work, and if I get caught, I have to make up an excuse for why I'm laughing to myself instead of explaining to my coworkers about that. But yeah, that was definitely a good moment from the podcast. That really, that movie's I like that movie. So not much from the episode was different, but that whole spiel was fantastic. And then I have one that I'm going to wait and see if you say, Ant. So I'm going to go with number 2 that I had on the list. I really like Stone Cold.
Yep.
I thought that was really good. I took a little bit of a risk on it because I did a little bit of research. Red Letter Media did their little blurb thing they do for Best of the Worst on it. And it seemed like, I was like, this is our kind of movie. But I've been burned by seeing other people do movies in the past and then not really being our cup of tea to make a good episode. But I was pleasantly surprised that I would actually watch this movie if it came on, like if I still had cable, and it popped on. Like it's a legitimate just popcorn, action movie that you're not going to worry about Oscar-winning performances. It's just a cool thing to watch, and you would, watch it on cable, and then when commercials come on, you go to your phone, and when it comes back on, you're back in. Like, it's just one of those basic cable movies. That's a shame it does not get that treatment. But yeah, it was definitely a movie I was pleasantly surprised by. And I was glad that we picked it. And it got through, and that you guys seem to enjoy it as well.
Definitely. That was on my list. Stone Cold. That was a great movie.
That was
Lance
not
Henriksen.
on my list, unfortunately.
Lance
was really
Henriksen
good.
can't go wrong. Yeah. One on my list, I'm gonna kind of bunch a couple of them together because they're the same quality. I'm talking about Miami Connection and Samurai Cop to be specific.
Yeah.
I feel like these are the same level of movie.
Yeah, those were both on my list as well.
I really enjoyed them. Miami Connection, I think I liked more than Samurai Cop, but just the whole dragon sound and that dude trying to find his father. Yeah, it's so stupid.
Miami Connection. So
That monologue about the kid trying to find his dad was epic.
Yeah,
That's the stuff of legends.
yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, I mean, like those were great. Just run down like really a couple quick other ones from my list. Cruel Jaws, I thought was fun. Maniac Cop was,
yes.
I had Cruel Jaws on my list.
Tom Atkins. And then that was it. Yeah, Neil Bringwell already mentioned. I do want to shout out, unless there's other movies you guys want to.
I have one, but I'm going to wait and see if you bring it up.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
I had on my list My Teacher, My Obsession.
Oh, yes. That's not on my list because I had seen it before, which is weird, but I had seen it before we did that movie.
Okay. Yeah, because that movie, as much as we watch all the Stalked by My Doctors, I was pleasantly surprised that was on the same level of ridiculously and insanity as those movies. And it was also one of the first times we made a connection on Twitter randomly to the writer of the movie.
Yep.
About it. And as we all say, we all stand Kyla.
I've never said that.
2 out of 3 of us stand. This is actually true. Dan has never stand Kyla.
Yeah, I don't
unlike when he says that he doesn't like the Stalked by My Doctor movies. We have evidence where he liked the first 2 that we covered. But,
and I lumped them together. The 2 Stalked by My Doctors, which we watched at around the same time.
Yeah, they're both in September's.
Yeah, it's weird. But yeah, those really good Lifetime movies like that are chef's kiss to what this podcast is. There's a lot of things we can run bits off of. That's why the Neil Breen movies are fantastic for this. So I had those on there. And the only other one, because if I see a podcast do this movie, I sort of follow it to see, was Blood Rage.
Blood Rage.
Just because I want to see other people's reaction to that movie.
Love Blood Rage.
Yeah, it's because it's just, and everybody picks up on the cranberry sauce thing. It is almost universal, which is really weird. Like you would think like, oh, we just harped on something that we found funny, but it seems like everybody that watches this movie, they start repeating it every time they see blood.
Yeah.
In the movie. And so the rest of it is on my list. There's some other things on here, but the just in case if nobody mentions a Christmas movie, I really love Deadly Games. I thought it was fun thing, but yeah, I think we hit on just about everything for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of shout out, like as we mentioned, this is the first time, episode 115 was the first time we had a guest, which was Tia, but we also had some other great guests. We had Steve from Hop Nation USA and Halloween is Forever. He joined us for Cool World and Basket Case. Jess Sager came on for Jumper and The Rock. We had the guys from ODPH, the aforementioned 10 Things I Hate About You, who helped us pitch 9/11 Things I Hate About You. As we mentioned, Alex and Pete came on from Binge Media to talk Neil Breen with us, and Alex also helped us out with Kirk Cameron's Saving Christmas, that could be one of the worst movies. That's a conversation
it's for up there.
A few minutes later. But yeah, that's up there. We had a few others. Am I missing anybody? I feel like I'm missing something.
We did 3 movies in a row.
The guy you guys had Spiker on for. I was not on that episode, so I don't know.
My friend Guy.
Yeah, Guy. We were just talking about Spiker not too long ago. Yeah, he was on here. That was a fun one, Spiker. That was weird.
That was a good episode. That movie went in a weird direction.
Yeah, men's volleyball propaganda is what I heard from you guys.
Right.
Yep. Also want to shout Michael Vaughn from Return of the Living Geeks. He joined us for Leprechaun this year. I feel like we're missing somebody else. but obviously, our personal friends who joined us. Tom came on for Eddie and the Cruisers too. Besides Sonic, which was before the 100 episodes. Then Jonathan joined us for Repo the Genetic Opera. Jen joined us for The Evil Dead. Yeah, it's a bunch of great people. Happy to have them join us. Always love having a guest on. Really, as we always say, every time we have one of these kind of wrap-up shows, want to do more about getting people on. So if you're listening to this and you have something to plug or you just want to be on an episode, reach out to us. We'll probably love to have you.
Yeah, more often than not, you're going to be on the show.
Yeah, probably.
We're not big enough to say no yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Maybe by episode 300, we'll start turning people away.
Fingers crossed, right?
Yeah. But I just wanted to make sure that we said thank you to everybody that kind of came on for that. Oh, and Tia also joined us for Too Fast, Too Furious too.
That's right. For some reason, I thought Jess had joined us for Too Fast.
No, she was The Rock.
Yeah. Yeah. We had 3 episodes in a row where we had guests on. We had The Rock, Draft Day, and Fateful Findings all back to back to back.
That's true. That was in May. We were very
the Inside Baseball on that. I think we record those out of order for Joe.
No, there was a plan that we might have to.
Okay.
But I believe we didn't.
Yeah.
What we did was we moved the movie of the month up a week so that we could have
get Joe in. Yeah.
So that we could coincide with the draft.
Yeah, that's it. Right. Okay, I knew it was something funky.
Yeah. The only other thing I had on our agenda was, I don't really want to go through a whole lot, but what do you think is the worst movie we covered in these 100 episodes?
Boy,
I'm going through to find something that's not Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
Yeah, we did National Lampoon Christmas Vacation.
That's pretty bad.
That was really bad.
Master Disguise.
That was bad. Love Guru.
Food Fight.
That's bad too. Wow. But you know what? With Food Fight was, we made that better. Like, it was a better experience for me, at least, talking about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that kind of lessened the blow.
Yeah, and since the bit won't last much longer, it was also the beginning of one of my favorite bits in an episode that we ever did with Food Fight.
You got to remind me.
That was the thing where we acted like Haley Duff did something wrong.
Oh.
And Dan had no idea.
Yeah, I was totally in the dark about that. I didn't like Repo the Genetic Opera.
Yeah, that doesn't seem like your kind of movie.
Yeah. I did like Deepwater, though, because Ana de Armas gets naked, so that was fun.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of going through.
That was on my list of the least favorites.
Ooh, The Pest.
Ooh, The Pest was bad.
That's in the running. Yeah, we did a lot of crap for the last 100.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid the obvious one. Nothing But Trouble.
Nothing But Trouble was a tough one to get through.
Yeah, I remember that movie not offering a lot in terms of what you could talk about, because nothing really happened.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Yeah, I think that's it. I mean, depending on your feelings, Jupiter Ascending.
Ooh, I had that on my list because that's the only movie that I decided not to write notes on.
Was that bad?
I read off of its Wikipedia plot summary.
Yeah.
We did
I think that's it.
Rats.
Ooh, I loved Rats.
Oh man,
Rats is too much fun.
That was essentially like another Love on a Leash.
Yeah.
That one gave me nightmares.
No, until we find another movie that does not have sound design, nothing will match Love on a Leash.
Good point. It's a really good point. That had nothing.
That sits in its own category.
Good Luck Chuck was a tough one.
Yeah, that again, that was a movie that really didn't offer a whole lot.
Yeah.
We just talked about my weird obsession with Dane Cook.
Outcast, which made us ban Sand and Sandals movies.
Mm-hmm. You know what else was pretty rough? Johnny Mnemonic.
It was.
I wasn't a fan of that movie. But that wasn't the worst.
No, not at all. Not even close.
Yeah. Again, it's
a functional movie.
Yeah. I got to go with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation too, because that was just it was it was like a black hole of comedy.
Yeah, and if we have to choose something different, like I'm going to vote just because I had to sit through it twice. Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas. But my choice to be different than Dan, despite that I agree with him, is I would put Masters of Disguise as
that's
the
fair.
worst movie. Just to be fair, because we mentioned, to be fair, we've gone through all the really bad movies.
What about Blown Away? With
Ooh,
just
Blown
the-
Away
the-
made
Well,
everybody
well,
uncomfortable.
with Nicole Eggers, just
if you're
nudity.
gonna pick Deep Water as a good movie because of Ana de Armas, you cannot shit on Blown Away.
You're not wrong, but I didn't feel as awkward watching Ana de Armas because she's of age.
Is it because you just assumed Nicole Eggert was 17 or something in that movie?
Well, they were teenagers.
Nicole Eggert herself was not 17, but her character was
Character was
17.
Yeah, so I mean, you have to think within the context of the movie there. So that
Yeah.
she's essentially a teen. She's below the age of consent at that time. She was like 17.
Yeah.
So to me, that was a little bit more not my proudest fab.
So before the perverts come into our Twitter feed, we don't care that different states have different ages of consent, and that depending on the state they were filming in, 17 might be perfectly legal. You can go fuck yourself.
It doesn't. I don't obey that law. It's not. It has to be above 18.
You got to be able to buy cigarettes.
Exactly.
Or go to war.
Actually, that's not even true anymore because cigarettes is 21.
Yeah, I just thought again it was just a very uncomfortable movie. Not one of the worst, but just I remember feeling very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then recently with Stalked by My Doctor, I was very uncomfortable. So
There you go.
we got that going for us.
Look, we're not doing our job if we're not making you uncomfortable.
Yeah, you know what? And that's one of the perks of this podcast. I get to feel like a scumbag.
There you go. Hey, it's not our fault. We're not the ones that made these movies.
It's true. That's a good point. That makes me feel a little better.
It's the filmmakers' fault.
It's their fault. Yeah, they're the ones that are wrong. We watched Green Lantern. That's not very good.
Yeah. And that made me feel worse than any of the creepy movie we've watched.
Yeah, but I will say, like, one of the things that I enjoy about this movie or this podcast is just the range of movies that we watch.
Sure.
Like we go from Last Action Hero to Munchie to Blood Rage to Deadly Games, and then you just Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Eddie and the Cruisers. So there's no just one thing that we do where it's like, oh, it's all bad action movies, it's all bad comedies. You know, we're getting a little piece of every pie here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we big time studio movies like The Ugly Truth.
That's right.
And
Picking up
then
the
movies no
ordinary.
one's ever heard of, like Fateful Findings or Raw Force.
Raw Force, yeah.
Or Tubi original War of the World's Annihilation.
I almost had that on my list specifically because it was
The twist?
no, but how Anthony wanted it to be a poll specifically on Tubi originals, and I thought that was something interesting.
Sure. Spiker was hard to track down.
It was, and it could. And again, I'll never forget how the movie portrays or wants you to think of the coach as this really hard ass he's not a good guy, and he did nothing wrong throughout the movie. You know, he just punished the main characters for being lackadaisical and not caring. But they want you to be like, oh man, he's such a tight ass. What's wrong with Coach? No, man, you're getting drunk on on a trip to Japan and you're like ruining everything for everyone. But he's the bad guy somehow.
All right. That was all I had for. Do
Yeah.
you guys have anything else you want to say before we wrap things up?
I wonder. You know what? We've talked about changing the sequence of the show a little bit, like not having like what did we watch this week, and changing things to the episodes coming out Friday. So I'm curious to see where else, like what else we have planned for the next 100 episodes. You know, like the movies we know that's going to be there, but you know the guests or any other segments that we might think of. Just how is it going to evolve, even just slightly, is very interesting.
Yeah, I got some ideas for like what we're gonna do to replace what we watched this week, and always the want for more guests is always there. So that's always something, maybe we'll expand if we find that we have more time to do certain things, or we kind of get up our butts and, be a little more assertive in doing certain things. Maybe we'll have different types of episodes and stuff like that. And we'll do a Patreon one day. I don't know, but
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get naked.
That's not Patreon, but
okay, sorry.
You do you.
I mean, it can be.
No one's saying it
I don't know.
Right?
We have to. They might specifically say you can't. We'll have to check the terms and conditions of Patreon. Yeah, I just want to say thank you. Anybody, if you're listening to this, if you listen to an episode, we really appreciate it. We're a small podcast. We make no money off of this, so we're just doing it for the love, and just giving us an excuse to watch shitty movies, really, more than anything. So thank you for listening to any of the episodes that you've listened to. Continue listening. We hope you do. Hope you still enjoy it. If you have suggestions, feel free to reach out to us in all our socials. And yeah, we are going to be back next week with Halloween episodes for all the month of October. So that's going to be fun. We love it. Love this time of year. We always say it every year. We love it.
We got some good ones picked out this year for sure.
We definitely do. We're going to continue doing the polls at the end of each month. So have to come up with a theme for this Halloween poll. And that's it for us this week. We're taking a breather, not watching a movie this week, so we can kick off October right. And thanks for listening. And check us out on the socials, TikTam Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Check us out at TikTok. They called us a movie. Hit us up. I think the Gmail is still available, the maindamie@gmail.com. That's still our Gmail account. But hit us up on the Twitter. Is our best place to get a hold of us. And yeah, that's going to wrap us up this week. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Myers, this is Anthony Del Vecchio saying thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to They Called Us a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TikTam Pod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Called Us a Movie.